Gary, and we've got another regular back on board. We've got the coach, Adel. Obviously, welcome back, Adel. We weren't planning on having you here for the rest of the year, but it's a special treat for our fans. I've got a question, mate, right off the bat. Obviously, last week, Brett Camorley stood down as NRLW coach. We know your history with the West Tigers, particularly on the women's side, the success you had with the Harvey Norman women's team. Will you or have you thrown your hat in the ring for anything to do with that women's program at West Tigers next season?
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be back. I made my intentions pretty clear to the club as soon as I knew, and basically got rejected. And the official word was I'm not credentialed enough for the role. Which, look, at the end of the day, it's their prerogative. That they've all got jobs at the club at the moment. That's their responsibility now to appoint a coach moving forward. So, and who am I to tell them what to do and what they can't do? A little bit of a slap in the face, but you just move on with it. And wish the girls well. Obviously, we're going live at the moment watching the game, and Salah's just scored one of the most amazing tries you'll ever see. So I did react to that at the start. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but yeah, look, mate, you just hope the best for the club and you just move on.
Obviously, I mean, we're obviously really disappointed for you, but you're obviously living up in Brisbane now. Do you plan on coaching in Queensland Cup next year? I know you're working with South Logan at the moment, or is everything up in the air?
Yeah, I've got something lined up, but yeah, it's just not. It's in the frameworks at the moment. So yeah, I'm with a great club up here in South Logan Magpies. Like, I love being a part of this club. So yeah, I guess it's not a secondary thing, but it's just as good a role for me, in my opinion, just to be a part of a club that wants me, which is really good.
Got anything for us on this before we roll on?
Adele's too polite about this, so I don't want to ruin his lovely comments, but I just think it's ridiculous that he wasn't allowed to go through the due process that everyone else is doing and applying for the job, and just if he gets rejected, he gets rejected on what he applies. I think there's something sinister going on behind it. There's obviously a person or two that don't want him there. Richo was apparently quite clear with Adel and his manager that he was not to apply for the role, which I just think is an absolute insult to Adel. But sorry to not be classy about it, Adel, but we love you, and I don't think it's very right.
And it'll be really interesting to see if Adel's not credentialed enough. I think when that announcement is made, it'll be very interesting to see who's actually appointed.
Who's credentialed? Brett Camorley? How did that go for us? There's three people that have won a trophy at the West Tigers. One of them's on the screen right now. Absolute disgrace from Shane Richardson.
Just on that, I actually hope, now that I know what I know, and with I hope Greg Inglis gets the role. I genuinely do. Like, I think, because I've heard a lot of names being thrown up and I'm hearing a lot of names being put out there, I genuinely hope Greg Inglis is the person that gets the job.
All right, well, tough season for the girls, obviously, but we're going to focus on the men's side of things tonight. West Tigers going down 36 points to 28 to the Gold Coast Titans last night. We will be recording another show which will go out on Thursday morning. It's going to be a review of the season. We're going to have the same panel here. Adel will be on. We're going to be grading the West Tigers season. We'll be talking about the key players as well as the coach, Benji Marshall. Plus, we'll be giving out some awards and we'll be giving some predictions for the 2026 season. But before we get into the show, our viewers and listeners, obviously you can find us on the Claws Out podcast. That's one word, on X, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, comment, really helps us. And obviously our sponsors, Matchday Money, reusable press-on nails. Ladies, add Matchday Money to your game day routine. And gentlemen, it's the perfect gift for sports mad ladies in your lives. West Tigers colours will be out in pre-season, and we've got Aussie colours out now, so the green and gold with a big summer of Ashes, Kangaroos, Matildas, and all the rest of it. But Rob Bashara, I'll throw to you first. Your one word from last night.
Again, so many that you could go with. I've gone with potential. I know it was an awful way to finish, particularly the second half, the way we disintegrated, but I saw enough signs there, particularly in the first half, particularly with the core group of players that we've got, that next year can be really a good year if we make it a good year. But we don't have 17 first graders, mate, and we don't have the depth, so we definitely need to stock up our ranks.
Junior?
Yeah, that was my word, depth. We lack depth. Mason, Suka, Seyfarth making the team weekly shows that. Suka and Seyfarth are guys that plug a hole throughout the year, and Mason should just be nowhere near a first grade side. Seeing them in the 20 each week shows where we're at.
For me, I'm going to go with Jekyll and Hyde, and I probably used it once or twice already this year. Throughout games, we have some really good moments. There were some really good moments, some really nice moments yesterday. But we then turn around and 5 minutes later, we have a period that's really poor football. And for me, that's what's held us back this season is the inability to play that consistent football for 80 minutes.
I've just gone with bottom four, boys, because we avoided the bottom four, Rob. And Gary would know I tipped us to run 14th at the start of the year, so they've slightly exceeded my expectations.
So you were wrong.
And I was wrong, but I think that gives the club a little bit of breathing space. And I was worried about finishing right down the bottom, and I'm just hoping this off-season they can just relax a bit without the heat that's come the last 3 years. But I've also said bottom four because I think if we go in as the squad is right now, that's where we're destined to finish next year. I know you guys probably disagree with that. Adel, I'm sure you probably disagree with that, but you were out at Seabus Stadium last night, mate. Was it a typical round 27 sort of game? Were you expecting plenty of points? It's obviously a very fast track up there.
No, I don't think it was a typical round 27 game, to be honest. I thought it was more of a typical Titans game at Seabus Stadium. Like if you actually go back a few weeks and look at when they played the Panthers there, it was a very similar game where the Titans were trash in the first half and then come out in the second half and almost beat the Panthers. So it was something very normal for a Titans game in that sort of weather on a fast track. But yeah, look, I enjoyed the game. Obviously the ending wasn't great. Sitting around so many Tigers fans was really good. It was really enjoyable. But yeah.
Double-digit wins would have been nice for the season, Rob. I know it's not much of a difference in the ladder in this big scheme of things because both the Dragons and South lost and Parramatta won comfortably. So the only team we would have jumped is the Cowboys. We end up 13th instead of 12th, but 10 wins sounds a lot better than 9.
It would have, but look, again, I think with the way we've been playing the last couple of months, or let me put it this way, where we were a couple of months ago, and I'm trying to stay as present as possible, I did not think we were going to win another game. So the fact that we've won 4 out of our, last 10 is...
And should have won 2 more.
And probably should have won 2 more. And that gives me hope. And I will say one thing, and I don't know what you're going to talk about exactly tonight, Eddie, but if we play with the style of football that we played with in the last few weeks, we win that round 1 game against Newcastle. We win that round 4 game against the Warriors. I think we're just starting to find who we are and our identity. So I know we don't want to capitulate the way we did. I think there were some significant reasons as to why we capitulated. But, there's a lot of promising signs.
What is that identity, Rob?
I think it's going to sound crazy given how we capitulated. I thought the first half there was a lot of resilience on our try line. So we're trying to build it on defence. I think we're starting to throw the ball a bit more around. Like if you look at our attack, I think we're trying to really give Taylor and May as much ball as we can, so we kind of play to the right to work to the left. But there just seems more confidence about it. Just before, like in the middle of the season, it didn't look like we knew what we were doing. And even Benji said at times in press conferences, we're still trying to find out who we are. I don't think we're that sort of team anymore. I think we're getting there.
Junior, 28-12 up at halftime. Are you going to look on the glass half full side, or were you obviously disappointed to get run down?
No, obviously disappointed to get run down. I mean, going into halftime, I sort of thought we could still lose that game, like you said in the group chat. And I think that's probably the biggest worry for where this club's at. I don't think any supporter is safe until we're within 15 minutes and up by like 18. Because, it's happened against the Cowboys, happened against the Titans now, and both of those sides are going bad this year.
Go back into the year and look on.
Adel's still watching the football there, and the girls, I think their game's still going. Unfortunately, a long way down to Parramatta at the moment. But Adel, it's been a habit this year losing leads. I've written down even this year back to round 1, we lost an 8-0 lead at halftime against Newcastle. We lost a late lead to the Warriors. Obviously, the Cowboys and the Titans over the last 3 weeks, we went out to a 12-point lead and lost that. And even in our wins against the Sharks, Dragons and Roosters, we got out to big leads and sort of, is it a thing where we're getting nervous because we're not used to winning, or is it a squad depth issue? What do you reckon?
I think it's a competition thing. I think momentum in this whole competition this year has been very similar for most teams. We've seen that happen so much throughout the year with a lot of teams. I mean, I go back to the Canterbury game at Bruce Stadium that day. I think it's a common thing across the competition, that momentum. And I'm not going to go into it too deep, but I'm not just talking about us. 6 again calls, penalties, sim bins, especially with so many sim bins happening, is changing momentums of games so frequently that I think it's not unusual to see this sort of stuff happening. So, I reflected back to that Panthers-Titans game before at Seabus. It's not unusual for it to happen across the competition, to be honest. It's not a singular thing to us.
Was there anything specific with the refereeing? Because you were obviously at the ground, because a lot of text going back and forth among the boys during the game. Did you think we got dudded in a couple of big calls, or was more just momentum going against us?
Well, significantly, the biggest thing I realised throughout the game is that the Titans never got pinged once for an inside the 10-metre 6 to go or a penalty. I was sitting in line with it, especially on our trial in the second half. That second tackle kick Jerome did. Mate, put it this way, I went back and looked through my little program that I've got that allows me to watch the game through the coach's eyes. The Titans were offside. They were frequently offside. And they knew that after that first half, they needed to jam up on our left edge really early to stop us. And the referee refused to penalise them. And when that happens, you know what? You just got to cop it on the chin. But like I've said all year, we've got to be better at defending that sort of stuff.
Getting out to those big leads, obviously the good side usually close it down. Do we lack a game manager? I know Luai's, our Batman. He's playing 6 now, but is that something that potentially we fall down in the back end of games?
I think it does to a degree. We saw that in the Gold Coast game when Adam kicked the field goal, just working it to that corner, which Adel and I disagreed with a little bit. I don't think we're systematic in how we go about closing games. But that said, we lost Latu. Once we lost Latu, that right edge, not only in defence but in attack, we really couldn't go out to the right. When Heath Mason got the ball, he'd either run with it or pass it very slowly to someone outside. And we just didn't look potent when he was out there.
We'll go to the clause out turning point right now, Junior. Was that the turning point when Latu went off injured and Heath had to come on and replace him?
Yeah, that's what I've got down. The Latu injury, Mason comes on, we lose his minutes 18-0. Again, same thing happened in the Cowboys game. Latu goes off, there's a shuffle. Defensively, that right edge just falls apart. I don't want to be too critical of one player because I've said when we had the Naden discussion not to be critical of one player in the past, but Heath Mason wouldn't make my Oz tag team with his defence, mate. Like, he's just not a first grader. And he had a great game, I think, against Penrith earlier in the year, and I'm pretty sure we extended him off the back of that, and I'm just thinking, why? Gary,
the stats, 9-3 line breaks to Gold Coast, so obviously we know they've got points in them and they cause us trouble, as they do most teams, but the disappointing thing for me is that it wasn't like they played a great game. They made 13 errors.
Yeah, I actually thought they were quite poor yesterday. For me, twice during that game, I thought we got out to decent leads. We got out to a 12-point lead at the start of the game. And we kind of relaxed a little bit, and I think that happened again in the second half. I think when we got out to 28-12 or whatever it was, I think we kind of took the foot off the pedal. And once you do that, the Gold Coast are a side, they can score points quickly. They hit the ball up fairly hard, and they play quick off the back of that. And for me, we just couldn't handle that. And once Latu was gone, they straight away targeted Mason. They went after Mason as soon as that change was made, and he just couldn't handle it.
Match day Manny of the match, Adel. Who do you got for us?
Samuel Alafino.
Clear standout for you?
Yeah, he's been outstanding the back end of the year. He's really evolved into a strike back rower. Even defensively, like that left edge defence has become really, really strong. The only times we've been beaten, and I could be wrong, but over the last 4 or 5 weeks on that right edge is when we've been stripped actually on the other side of the field. There's been some issues and that left edge has had to be caught short. But, yeah, he's a big part of that. But yesterday he was really, really strong again.
He even had a hand in, I think, 2 of the first 3 tries. He got a little offload away for the first try, which I think Macassini scored in the corner. And there was a chip bomb from Latu where he managed a bit of basketball back to Royce Hunt. So he's really, like, second-year syndrome is often a thing. And probably in the first 8 weeks of the season, I thought, okay, maybe he's going to feel that a little bit, but he's really finished the year strong.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the hype in him, but his last 3 games have been magnificent. It was a photo finish for me. I went Jareem Buller just because Jareem just adds so much to our game. But, yeah, Samuela was brilliant yesterday.
Your man of the match, Junior?
Yeah, I actually went with Latu. I just thought other than he bombed a 4-on-2, which I think we ended up scoring the next set because we got the ball back. I just thought he straightened. Yeah, I thought he straightened the attack well, engaged the defensive line, and he ran the ball when he needed to run the ball, not just for the sake of running the ball. Yeah,
I'm Sam Fainu as well. I thought he was outstanding yesterday. That combination with he and Luai, it took a while to build, I think, but Luai's playing better football now because of the line Sam's running. They've worked out how to work together. I think Taylor May coming onto that left edge has freed a little bit of the eyes up off Sam a little bit and enabled him to actually have that extra space. And the ball he threw for that Macassini try was a really nice ball. He hit a really nice hole and then offload really quickly to Luai. Yeah, that was a really nice play.
Coach, my moment of the match was obviously the try for the debutant. A lot of hype going in, but with hype comes pressure. And his stats actually surprised me because I thought a few times the Gold Coast were up on him, trying to probably, hustle him, but 166 metres, 64 post-contact metres, obviously got a try, 3 tackle breaks. and even 3.2 play the ball speed. So he didn't look out of place.
No, he was really, really good. I seen early in the game he sort of realised that he was playing against grown men. And you can tell sometimes when I say grown men, obviously first graders. But you know what? The one thing I will say about him, his first couple of carries, he went straight at Tino. And I love that about the fact that he didn't take a backward step. But, mate, I've known he's been good enough for a long time. But it was always going to be whether you do debut him this year or not. But, mate, he'll be in our starting team next year, 100%.
There was a little bit of, I guess, confusion or within the fan base division on whether he should debut this year. Do you think it panned out well?
I wanted him to debut, and I think it definitely panned out well. 166 metres, 64 post contact. For a kid in his first game, he didn't do anything wow, but for a kid that age, the size he's got about him, he did nothing wrong. He absolutely did nothing wrong. He played a great game.
Now, last week, Junior, I said Royce Hunt can't play longer than 15 minutes. But what does he do? Of course, he was going to score a double this week, so we have to talk about him. He had a blinder, I thought. 106 metres, 25 minutes, and the 2 tries in quick succession.
Yeah, but I think he actually proved your point. He can't play more than 15 minutes. I think he got 25 out last night, but if you watch that game, and Adel might be able to touch on this, from a coach's perspective or whatnot, I thought around the middle, he didn't come over and close gaps in the middle of the field. I actually thought Terrell May did a bit of that last night as well, which I was disappointed in. But yeah, he did have a great game for his standard. But yeah, I just think 15 minutes max.
Big Royce, Gary, what did you make of him?
Yeah, I actually thought the best part of his game wasn't the 2 tries he scored. He got through plenty of work in the middle. It's unlike him to hit that 100-metre mark. 47 of them post-contact, so he had a really strong game, but I do agree defensively, he was a little bit slow.
Those sort of impact players, Adel, like guys that come off the bench or know they're going to play limited minutes, do we underestimate sometimes like they're trying to jam 60 minutes into 20? Like we've seen Pole this year lose, I think, confidence the last 8 weeks of the season. I don't know if Royce Hunt lost confidence or just his conditioning wasn't good enough throughout the season, but was that one of his better games last night?
For us it was, yeah. But, I guess there's some decisions to make there moving forward in regards to what he does. I think his preseason is the key for him, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. You're a professional athlete. At the end of the day, every single player is able to get themselves in the right condition to be able to play longer minutes and get the same sort of effectiveness out of him. So his preseason is going to be the key for him. We learned last year the club will be very strict on standards on where you come back from preseason. Remember they put some black marks on a few people last year. I think Latu was actually one of those players last year that got breached by the club. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the key for him next year.
Jareem Buller, Rob, I think he's had a magnificent season. I know I've been harsh on him in the past, but that first try leap above Keanu Kinu, that was effortless.
That was actually my moment of the match when you get to it. I thought it was brilliant. The way he timed that jump as well. You notice Kenny jumps up just a fraction early, but Buller doesn't, and just gets that extra height on him, catches the ball. He's an absolute weapon for us. Last year he played more of a backup role for us. I thought he was down a little bit last year, but this year he is popping up everywhere, and he's so important to our attack.
On that take he took, it's really impressive the way he actually takes the ball and spins in the air. You watch him, and he's done it a number of times this year. He'll take the catch, and then he spins so he's actually in front of the attacker, the defending player. And he's been able to get past them a number of times by hitting and spinning in the air. He does a really good job of that.
What's the biggest area of his game, Junior, that you think over the course of a preseason you'd like Jareem to work on to see if he can get into that top 4 or 5 fullbacks in the game?
Yeah, I've always been critical of his positioning around the in-goal. I just feel there's times, and I don't know, it's probably the way that they're coached.
Defensively?
Defensively, yeah. I see, obviously, most fullbacks do it these days. I'm not too sure why, but the first 2-3 tackles, they're in the defensive line, especially once they're in our red zone. And I just feel like there's times where once it goes 2 passes wide, you see a player like Dylan Edwards start hustling to get over to the other side of the field, where I just see that casualness about Dream. It's probably because of the workload he does for our club. But yeah, that's probably the biggest area I'd like to see of an improvement, but he's had a great year.
Is there anything?
I'll explain that, Junior. There's 2 parts to it, why a lot of the teams do it on tackle 1 and tackle 2, because what you want to do is win those first 2 tackles of the set. And what you actually want to dare the opposition. If you can put, instead of having 10 players in your line, you'll have 11 in the first 2 tackles to try to win those 2. And what you want to do then is dare the opposition, because you don't think they're going to kick the ball on tackle 1 or 2, right? So you want to try to win those first 2 tackles, take a little bit of steam out of their attack, especially in the red zone. Second to that, I think this is the important part with a lot of our players, is the reason why Dream Buller can't do what Dylan Edwards does, is because Dream Buller's 3 years into his first grade career.
Yeah, fair.
Dylan Edwards has been doing it for a long time. So I think when we compare, especially a lot of our boys, even your Finus, your even Macassini moving forward, like I know what we're going to expect from Macassini coming the start of next year. We've still got to remember these guys are kids. Sam Finu's 21. Fanua is 22, I think, or 23. These guys are still growing as footballers. They've got their best football to come, so just be patient.
What about Latu's performance, Gary? I thought it was impressive. I think he had a hand in at least 3 of the 5 tries and obviously scored that solo try himself.
Yeah, I thought that was his best game at halfback. The way he was straightening the ball, creating space for the outside, and the right foot step, the way he steps off that right foot and bites back into the line is causing a lot of team troubles. So it was really good to see again yesterday.
Adel, you've been a big fan of Latu. Do you think the club's managed him well and Benji's managed him well over the back half of the season, starting and then off the bench and mixing and matching? Obviously, Adam getting injured 2 games ago.
Absolutely perfectly. And you know what? I love the fact that he has got no ego about him. He's happy to take whatever role, and he understands the position he's in with his career in regards to just getting football under his belt. Like I've said previously, he's barely played any football the last couple of years. So the fact that he's got so much football out this year has been outstanding. I'm a massive believer in him in the long term. I don't think he's as good as Isaiah Katoa, but he's got the same sort of traits as Katoa. He's probably got a better running game than Katoa in my eyes. But yeah, I'm very, very pleased with where he's at. And Rob and I will disagree with this. He's my starting 7 next year. You just start from the start and you just go full throttle at this.
That was going to be my question. I was going to ask where you're going to start him next year. I agree, Adele. I have him. I was sitting watching that game yesterday, and his performance yesterday, he's just a lot more dangerous than Adam Dewey is in attack. I think Adam guides us around the park fairly well, but he doesn't have that excitement factor and that danger to the defensive line that Latu has.
Yeah, I don't think he has that excitement factor that Latu has, but it's something Adam does bring to our team that was missing yesterday.
Is that kicking game?
And not just that, he knows, I feel like of everyone in our spine, Adam's probably the best when it comes to managing a game towards the end of a game of footy. And Latu, obviously not being there the last 20 minutes, he couldn't help that being injured. But I just feel like if Adam was in the halves in those last 20 minutes instead of Heath Mason, we close that game out.
We spoke about the kicking duties, Rob, over the last couple of weeks. Do you think it's something where Latu or Jerome will have to become the dominant kicker, or if Adam slots into lock next year, they can share that around?
Well, again, we disagree on this. I don't think
Can't kick from lock.
I don't. Well, if Terrell May's got the biggest boot, I don't think Terrell May should be kicking from prop. Like, I just think the half is running the show, and I just think it just becomes a bit of a mess when they're all chiming in to do all that organisation.
Your 13 now really is part of your spine. If you've game planned to have your 13 doing a lot of your kicking, there's no reason why you can't. You set up your structures, you set up your game plan to do it, and you allow him to do it. So I don't really have an issue with that. But I also thought Latu's, especially his high kicking game, was outstanding yesterday. That he was getting the ball really high, and the way Buller was chasing through, and Sam Fainu chased through and put a lot of pressure on the fullback as well. Those two guys, they were attacking kicks, where earlier in the season, those sort of kicks have been defensive kicks.
So it's not about who's going to be the better 7 for me. I think they're both great 7s, and they're both totally different 7s. It's just that I think Latu will handle 13 a little bit better temporarily. The poise Latu has at 7, I love. I get that, but I just think there's something about, maybe it's just Adam's background or personality. I just think Adam wants to be the man. I don't think he's the man at lock.
Coach, we haven't had you on probably the last 3 or 4 weeks, but Jerome's football over the course of that time, adding Taylor May to that left centre spot and the combination he's developing with Samuela, that's coming along like a train at the moment.
It's been better. I think what I've noticed is when Jerome has played, when Latu has come around to his side of the field, it's been a little bit better. And he's enjoyed having that little bit of freedom. I was really disappointed yesterday. I promised I wasn't going to be negative tonight. I was really disappointed.
Join the crew. I need a friend here. I'm the negative one. So go for your life, Adel.
In the second half, for some reason, every time we ran shape to the left side, it got to Jerome and there was no extra shape. And that's the secondary phase of our shape. I just don't know why. But I think a little bit of that's got to do with the fact that the Titans, like I said, I was sitting right in front of it. We're a mile offside, and they really come up in our faces and decide to shut that off. But yeah, no, look, I'm happy with where Jerome is. It was always going to be a year of figuring out a completely change of a system for him to go into a new system. He's never going to be Nathan Cleary or Mitchell Moses because that's not who he is. Okay, and it's even more reason why I think Latu needs to be our 7 is the fact that I think you just got to get that 6 and 7 combination going, and you can never, control injuries and what happens through the year. But the other part to it is, for me, it is watching yesterday. I was really, it annoyed me how many different people we had linking as our 13 yesterday. Terrell did it a lot. Twali did it a lot. Fanua did it a bit. Charlie Murray did it a couple of times.
Seyfarth did it as well.
Not Charlie Murray. Seyfarth did it. I just think, your good teams, your 13 and your link player is very consistent, and it allows you to have that same combination. And that's why I think Adam's the man for the job. And I have been watching you guys, and to argue Rob's point about your halves kick, well, Reece Walsh has been doing a lot of kicking from fullback for Brisbane. A lot of fullbacks do kicking. So if you want to use your 13, you can. But I agree with Gary. I think Latu's kicking game the last couple of weeks has been outstanding.
Junior, are you starting with Latu in the halves next year, or I think it's going to be a genuine battle?
I think it'll be a bit of a battle, but I think the most important part is Benji has to make the decision in the off-season, and he needs to commit with it and get it right. I know it's a lot to ask for the most inexperienced coach in the league, but he definitely needs to get that decision right in the off-season. If it's me, I agree with Adel. I'd be going with Latu. I think he's going to beat Adam out in the off-season for the 7, and I think Adam's going to complement Latu and Luai better from 13.
And depending on his shoulder injury, but Latu getting that full off-season training in that 7 role, I think is crucially important. That sets him up for success next year. That's what he didn't have this year. He's come in fairly cold into that 7 role, and I think he's done a fantastic job of it.
And not just that, like I said, the 15 minutes that he's not there where they beat us 18-0, what he adds to our edge defense next to Stafford Toa. Stafford's not exactly the greatest defender in the world. I think Latu, I feel like it's easier to hide Adam in the middle of the field. Yes, he will make more tackles, and it's a lot to ask of him, but condition him in the off-season to do so, because Latu is definitely better on the edge at reading the defence.
And our defence fell apart when he went off in the Cowboys game as well.
Rob, we've spoken about creating a style of football or an identity, and I think we've seen that more over the past couple of months, but every time I look at the stats, the offload count is really high. 16 offloads again last night. Obviously that's a good thing, but are we capitalising on those offloads?
We capitalised on it in the first half. I don't know how much of it we did in the second half, or if we had the opportunity or the field position to capitalise on it in the second half. But yeah, it's an attractive style of football. We're literally, I think we've got the right combination of going forward and knowing when to, spread the ball and when not to. I just think we need a little bit more punch in the middle, and maybe that's why we're throwing it around a little bit more, because we actually don't have the cattle in the forwards.
Yeah, if you have a look, coming out of our own end, we shift to the edges to get yardage out of our own end. We've been doing it for the last 2 months, which kind of coincides with the better style of football we've been playing. But a little bit more punch through the middle would definitely help.
Coach, is that offloading, is that something that's encouraged sort of within a structure, or is it more like a freelance thing for guys like Terrell that will just do it if their arm's free?
No, you try to build the confidence within the players and give them the confidence in being able to be selective with their offloads. I don't think we've capitalised off it really well. It looked like to me last night there was a conscious effort to get the ball to Jareem after an offload. But even in saying that, we don't play that flood football really well. But I could see that they were consciously trying to do it at the back end of the year. Not to say they've got it right, but yeah, we definitely don't capitalise on it. But it's about building confidence for the players.
Defensively, Rob Jr., we struggled a little bit. Obviously, the Titans, we know they've got some players with some speed, and that they targeted that right edge and got some joy.
Yeah, AJ Brimson having a field day out there. Adel will probably be able to talk about it better than anyone here, but I feel like our defensive structure, like that umbrella coming up off the side, it just looked like Heath Mason was coming up out of nowhere and just standing in no man's land, get up close to them and then just backpedal. I think you give someone like AJ Brimson that time, you're just asking to be beat.
Rob Jr. mentions Mason, but like he was only out there for the last 23 minutes. Stafford Toa was the starting centre, and they found some joy there.
If you look at the stat sheet, Stafford Toa only missed 2 tackles, but they led to tries. I think the thing that bothers me the most, AJ Brimson, I should say, is a great player, but he's a makeshift centre. That's not his regular position, and he got absolutely torched, by a player of that calibre. So that was disappointing. Look, I know Toa's had arm issues, but he's got to be better than that. I mean, those couple of tackles were Naden-like.
Were there things there, Adel, with Toa in particular, where maybe he was sliding off or getting his body shape wrong, or it's just a lack of intent sometimes? We're trying to meet a player like Brimson and he's got the pace to just burn you on the outside.
Brimson's a very good player. I'll say that.
He's an immortal against us. Every time he plays against us, he's an immortal. Like honestly,
Look, I think again, I don't want to be negative. What happened was our disconnection on our right edge caused Stafford to sort of sink a little bit, which meant he wanted to help Heath, which is probably good system. But when you've got the quality of someone like Brimson, who, Rob, I actually think he's a centre. I actually think in the long term for the Titans, he's their best left centre. But I think he was able to capitalise on a couple of occasions. But a lot of that stuff that happened on that right edge yesterday came off the back of some poor stuff on the inside. And it sort of made our edges sink a little bit. But, yeah, what I will say is I think this for those out there that watch rugby league a lot and say, why don't the wingers stay out? Tito stayed out every time yesterday to give Toa the confidence of manning up on his centre. And that's why sometimes you don't want the winger to actually stay out. You want him to make a decision and jam. It's to put a bit of pressure and make them throw the pass. But look, once the Titans were coming downhill, we weren't stopping them.
Yeah, they obviously had all the momentum, Junior, in that second half. And I don't want to turn this into a hammer-a-thon on Toa or Mason, but there's no hard and fast rule for competing for kicks when they land about 10 metres out. But I think Tino jumped up and grabbed that kick and sort of Toa and Mason just watching there. What did I say then?
No, I just don't know how you want me to not have a hammer-a-thon and then just point out what they're doing wrong. My biggest issue is the 1%.
Should they be competing for that?
Well, first of all, even if Tino jumps up and drops the ball, it's a penalty. So it's just dumb play. And I think him not being a regular first grader, maybe that's the reason, because it was coming from him. But it makes me wonder where the attention to detail is in our team. Even you look at the second last try the Titans scored, they get around Mason, Buller's backtracking, trying to stop a try. Mason's pointing as in take the ball, because he's going to cover the inside. Then just starts jogging, they pass it on the inside, and now they've scored near the post rather than scoring in the corner. I mean, if you're going to point out and say, take the outside player, make sure you're there to cover the inside. Don't just half-ass around and let him get a better chance at the kick at goal. It's dumb. It's just, if you're not going to get there, then let Buller be on his own. Buller would have covered the inside and Brimson would have scored in the corner, and then it's a harder kick.
Because there are like small centres and wingers, and like if you watch Penrith, they don't always compete for a ball if it's 10 metres out from their own line, but they surround the player, so there's not often a try or a offload on the back of it.
Well, I want to defer to Adel, I should say, on that bomb that we're talking about with Tino catching. Adel, is there a chance that Mason was just meant to be basically jockeying and someone else was meant to come in and take the ball? Because he was facing our try line, our own try line, so he had his back to where we want to score, and it looked like he was just doing nothing and waiting for someone. Was he perhaps waiting for a winger? Is that like a system where you just come back and sort of get in the way and one of our wingers or fullbacks is meant to jump up and catch it?
Yeah, he was basically trying to run an escort or plant himself in front of the drop zone. The actual criticism there needs to be to the centre or a winger, where I think it should be Stafford because the drop zone was on the half's head. So the centre needs to attack that and actually get to the drop zone and compete for it. Look, the other thing, we can't be harsh with Mason. I don't think Mason's sitting on the bench to come on as a half. He's coming on to play wherever is needed in the back line. And with our current squad, and this is the thing we all got to continue to understand, is this is the situation with our squad at the moment. If you look at it, he's probably the next best player to come into the squad to play that is going to cover multiple roles in the back line. Now, I know, for example, people are talking about, what's the kid everybody talks about? Mapapa Langi? Is that his name?
Yep.
A lot of people want him on the bench. Look, from a club perspective, I know we shouldn't care about this. He's a train and trialist. So, obviously they see him every day at training. He plays New South Wales Cup. I know he plays multiple positions. But if he plays, you also got to pay him extra money, which goes towards the cap, which adds, so it's business as well. So Heath Mason is the logical choice as to who you'd have the bench to cover a few of those positions.
What about Jack Bird?
Coach?
Something's got to be happening with Jack Bird. There's got to be something going on in the background, and it's been a big trait of our club at the moment where we don't really hear too much, do we? So, yeah, I'm guessing something's happening in the background with Jack Bird.
Because he's not playing reserve grade either.
I don't know what's going on with him, but I'm just wondering how he's not making the side.
That's a respect thing sometimes with senior players. You don't play them in reserve grade, but it's even one of those things that, like, I haven't seen him in the sheds. I haven't seen him in training shots, so yet. Not sure, to be honest.
I don't think it's a much better option, but surely Naden was a better option than.
Oh, don't start this.
Well, I'm serious. I mean, I'm not a Naden fan, but surely Naden plays a bit of 5'8" in Cup. He's played wing for us this year. He's played centre for us this year. He's an older body. He's a bigger body. He's got more experience. Would he have not been a better? And again, like if Mason was a 2 out of 10, you know, Naden's probably a 4 out of 10. Like it's not really a massive upgrade, but surely that's better than Mason.
They heard Eddie torch him, so they didn't want that again.
And we should say one thing, not trying to torch him too much, but guys, Sione's been one of our best players the last month. He missed 9 tackles yesterday, so we're having a go at Heath. And
We also moved him around a lot
Yeah, he
yesterday.
played 3 different positions.
Okay, but 9 tackles is a big whack.
On the forward pack yesterday, Junior, I know Terrell had his usual decent numbers, but were there any standouts there?
No, I actually thought that was Terrell's worst game for the club. Okay. I thought he looked tired. And I think it's
As
a
he should
result.
be.
Yeah, 100%. He's playing 75 minutes every week. It's not a knock on the bloke. Like I think that's how bad our forward pack was. That I thought that was his worst game, and he's probably still like our second best forward after Sanfeinu.
Use of the bench, coach. Collision, wrestle. You'd like to talk about those sort of things. How'd we go over the last 4 or 6 weeks? Did we improve as a squad over those areas, or is the cupboard a little bit bare and Terrell's had to bear the brunt of most of that forward pack this year?
Oh, look, I think that's a little bit unfair on Twiley. I think Twiley's been good.
Yep.
I don't necessarily think, I agree with Rob Jr. I've got to remember, I've got to say that. I think Terrell's, there's a few things I think Terrell needs to bring into his game off the back of what he's been able to do this year. But, I don't necessarily think that, it's only been him. I think even Fanua, I know Fanua's had not a great back into the year, but he was really good at the start of the year. But what I will say is I think our contact and our wrestle did improve come the back end of the year. Still not elite, but it did improve.
Do you reckon that's like a mindset thing or a coaching thing they would have been working on during the week? Or
Well, listening to Benji's post-game press conference, he's talked about the fact that he thinks he not overtrained the players, but one of the things he did do at the back end of the year was they really continue to train really, really hard. So I'm thinking that they've just decided we're going to go hammer and tong this whole year, and they've kept working on that stuff where sometimes you can scale that stuff back at the back end of the year, but they've decided not to, it looks like.
Rob, it was a typical round 27 press conference. They kept Benji about 90 seconds, which is all he'd want to be after the end of the season. And he said it was a dull way to end a year. But, he said, I don't know if he said I've squeezed a lemon dry, but he essentially said I've asked a lot from this group the last couple of months. Do you think he's referring to the fact that in an sort of way that we've got a short squad and a lot of these boys have had to play a lot of games and they've just sort of hit the wall a little bit late in games?
Yeah, Benji's been really honest. I totally agreed with him. And given where I stood on this with Adel a couple of months ago and wanting Benji to basically resign, I think Benji's done a magnificent job the last couple of months. The cupboard is empty, mate, whether people want to believe it or not. If you go back to January this year, we had to release Bateman, we released Clemmer, Olam medically retired, Galvin left, Talon De Silva left, Fata Ape left.
Even Uda Kamanu left.
Yeah, but that was last year. I'm just saying, different. But we had all these guys, and who have we replenished it with? Taylor May was knocked back the first time by Shane Richardson when Benji wanted him. We end up getting him a couple of months later. That's all we've replaced that squad with. So we are devoid of first grade players, whether they're backs or forwards, and we are just missing a lot of forwards. We don't have 17 players. I guarantee you, if we had not such a weak bench yesterday, and I will say Royce Hunt played his best game of the year. I was very happy with his go forward, if not for anything else. If we had a decent bench, we win that game easily.
Alex Seyfarth made his return yesterday after a 3-week suspension. You're smiling at me like you think he wasn't no good yesterday as well. But he at least is a bench player that plays minutes. There's a bit more trust in him from Benji, at least it seems to me.
There is more trust from Benji in Seyfarth, and I think that's just an experience thing. He's played more games than your Sukas and Charlie Murrays and blokes like that. But like I've got written down here, Suka, still a bit early in Suka's career to judge, but Seyfarth, he's the type of guy, like I said, he plugs a hole. Like if someone's injured or out on origin duty or something like that, he comes in, you tell him what his job is and he just does it. I feel sorry for the bloke. He had a good 15 minutes yesterday and then just the standard stuff in his game crept back in.
That's what I was about to say. In fairness, he was really good up until that mistake. His extra work in defence and his cover defence and filling gaps of other players was excellent at the start of that game. But that's the problem with Alex Seyfarth. You get that wholehearted effort and then he can't – you either get a piece of ill discipline or a piece of a really bad error. And that lets him down on almost a weekly occasion. That's where we need to be better. We need guys that don't have that error or that ill discipline in them for us to move forward as a club.
Coach, we do get Kai Pearce-Paul next season. He probably can't wait to get out of Newcastle given how they played today, going down by 60 or whatever they did. But assuming he starts on the right edge, what do you think our bench could look like? Would you play Sione in the middle or Seyfarth in the middle off the bench, ideally?
I have no doubt, Eddie, that we will be very active in the preseason or in the off-season. I have no doubt about it. And it doesn't mean we're going to sign superstars, but I think we will be the club that will be talking to a lot of managers. And when there's conversations that these other big clubs want to move, look, I have no doubt, and this is, hang on, that's the wrong word to use. I have a feeling, a gut feeling, we're going to end up with Nelson Asofa Solomona at our club.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
A great thing. It'll be a great thing because you know what? And this is, I'd be aggressive with it if I'm the club. I'd go at Melbourne. He's on one of the biggest contracts. If they can spare half of it, we'd pay half of it. And you know, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but that's what we need. We need size. We need aggression. We looked at that this year with Royce. Royce can't. One thing about Asofa Solomona, he's got a big motor. I know he can't go for a full game. Why is Rob Jr. laughing?
We thought it happened again.
It's deja vu.
It happened.
Royce can't. We've got to stop doing that. Royce Hunt can't is a hard thing to say.
As I'm drinking water as well, Adel. You done me dirty, mate.
Adele, I was going to ask about Jack Bird. Sorry if you didn't get to finish your point. You can go back to it. But Jack Bird, because you've been within the four walls, players get a lot of criticism for not being loyal, but could clubs be as disloyal? And I'm sort of asking, could it just be the fact that, you know, they're not saying this to him, but Richo or whoever's going, this guy's on 400,000, we're just going to give him no opportunity to play, so he's basically got no option but to look elsewhere.
You're asking me this question on this week as a brief, I think, but clubs are within their right. Clubs are within their right, so are players. Actually, you know what? That's unfair to say on the clubs and the players. At the end of the day, this is a business. Everybody does it. Players agitate, like we said earlier in the year with our players. Clubs will do the same the other way. That's why you can't be critical. So I'm not sure, to be honest, Eddie. That's a hard one for me to sit with at the moment. Anything
else we want to mention from the game, Rob, that we've missed?
No, I think you've touched on Samuela being great, Buller being great. Hunt had his best game of the year. I know both boys have said it. I want to be the third person to say Seyfarth had a brilliant first 20 minutes. It's just a shame he had that stupid brain fart at 10-0 up. But yeah, nothing really.
Can I defend Alex Seyfarth? Because I've been critical of him. I think what we've put ourselves in a mindset that he's not allowed to make an error. Because I thought he had a really good game yesterday. He made one error. And let me tell you, I was at the game and I texted this to Rob. He got absolutely sprayed by Benji. He got hooked in that Seyfarth doesn't come off first. He's never our first guy to come off. He got hooked. And Benji made a beeline to the end of the bench, looked at him, and absolutely gave it to him. And you know what? I think that's about standards.
It's not the one mistake, though, Adel. It's the history that's led up to that.
Oh, no, I mean yesterday. I mean yesterday's mistake, yeah.
Yeah, but there's too much of a history to let him off with that one mistake because there's 1,000 more.
Well, I'm sure the boys would have had a good night out on the Gold Coast, even though they didn't get the result they deserve. They deserve it. So we've been going hard for 27 weeks, and I said last week they would have packed their jeans. It's one of the first things you'd pack when you go to the Gold Coast for around 27. But over the next 6 or 8 weeks, what's the most important thing for Benji and Richo? It's obviously trying to strengthen the squad, but is there something in this squad at the moment they could improve looking into the preseason?
Yeah, I think for Benji, it's just about keeping this group united and the chemistry. I think we saw a lot of improvement this year off the back of the culture, bringing Luai in, the boys putting in that effort for each other. I think Galvin sort of derailed that. I think Richardson, I know people are going to think I'm probably being critical because of Adel, but I think Richardson's got the biggest job at our club right now. Benji's doing a great job, in my opinion, with the playing group in terms of getting them to play for each other. Maybe tactically they need an assistant coach or two to help out. But he's got a big job in terms of identifying what Benji needs, and Benji's got to say, this is what I need, give me it, and just go get it done.
I think you mentioned 4 or 5 weeks ago it'll depend on the last few results whether there's potentially changes in that coaching staff. Now, they've lost the last 3 games. Would you like to see an Adam O'Brien who's actually come out and said, I don't have to be the lead singer. He's extremely experienced. He probably Benji's not going to go down that path, but would you like to see an assistant brought in?
I don't know what's going on inside there. Obviously, we want as many good people as we can in the club, like this bloke here. But if Adam O'Brien's one of those guys, so be it. I think, like, to echo what Robbie said, Richo's been raving on since 6 months ago about this war chest. We're going to make all these massive signings, and all we've done is we've had Kai Pearce-Paul sign, and we had Taylor May signed to a train and trial. We've signed a couple of young blokes, or not so much with Maverick Guy, but Ethan Roberts, Maverick Guy. They're not exactly first grade household names, so he's got a big job to do, and he needs to give Benji some stock, because we just don't have the stock right now, particularly in the forwards.
Is the salary cap a little bit tighter than we think? Steve said that to me last week. Like, big up, like Taylor May's going to have a 3-year deal. There's going to be upgrades to Appy. Obviously, Jerome's on big money. Probably going to look at re-signing Terrell.
Adam Dewey got probably more money than the club was expecting to fork out on him. So I think it's tighter than everyone kind of thinks, but it's really crucial we go out into that marketplace and we find that middle forward. That's really what we're lacking. I think if we get a high-impact middle forward, that transforms the way we want to play, and it suits the way we want to play.
The problem at the moment that I think we haven't taken into consideration is the Perth Bears, and the end of the CBA. First of all, you can rule out Adam O'Brien. Adam O'Brien is managed by Isaac Moses, so he won't be coming to our club. The Perth Bears come in 2027, so that's one really thing that you got to understand, that anyone that comes off contract, realistically, is going to probably say, we want to sign for a year, maybe 2. But I don't think they're going to go any more than that, because then the CBA new deal comes in 2028. So then, lower ranked players or mid-range players aren't going to have ratchet clauses in their contracts like your top-end players. So I think it's going to be really, really tough to sign players, unless there's only one reason they're going to sign with the club, and it's been a lot of the reason why a lot of the other guys have signed with the club, and that is because of our head coach. So we're going to have to use Benji's pulling power as best as we can.
Adel, just from a coach's point of view, obviously the players are going on holidays now, but do they have like exit interviews where you go one-on-one with the coach and they review your season and things or targets they want you to hit when you come back in 6 or 8 weeks?
Most clubs do it. Every club's different. It's tough, right? Because in situations where some of the players are leaving the club, for example, or not contracted, they don't really want to do exit meetings. They don't really care for exit meetings. But obviously the guys that are still there, they'll do that. Every club does things a little bit differently, but from what I understand, we'll have exit meetings at our club, yeah.
Is there something in pre-season you'd like to see the squad focus on? Obviously, when they get back in November, it's generally fitness heavy and maybe an army camp and stuff like that. But is there something specifically that you think this coaching staff will learn from the season?
From speaking to Adel mostly, I want to see our kick chase improved. That's been one thing that's let us down quite significantly. So I think I want to see the kick chase improve.
Junior?
Like I said, I think just our first point of contact. I pointed out 12 for the last few weeks. I thought yesterday was a step back from the previous weeks. But yeah, I just want to see that aggression in when we hit. I want to hit to hurt.
Anything, Gary?
For me, it's those attacking and defensive structures. It's about having those systems in place, your attacking systems, your defensive systems, to set us up that our actions are repeatable. For me, early in the season especially, the lack of structure in the way we attack, I don't want to see that at the start of next year. We appear to have identified a style of football we want to play. Let's get that embedded during the preseason.
All right, well, I think that'll do for tonight, Rob. Possibly our last live show. I know we're going to have a season review, which we're going to film with all these boys here, which will be out on YouTube hopefully on Thursday, where we're going to give out a heap of awards and go through the season, rating the coach and the senior players. But are you stress-free now? The season's over? I've just taken a deep breath. I'm relieved it's over and no more stress for 6 months, Rob.
Mixed feelings. I am selfishly relieved like that, but at the same time, I felt like our season was just starting. I'd love a few more players. If I look at some of the teams that are left in the comp, and I know it sounds crazy given where we finished, 13th. The Warriors are just making up the numbers. A couple of the other teams have got some serious injuries. Like, if we just had a few more players on that bench, we could actually do some damage in the semis.
It's going to be a good summer as long as Canterbury don't win the comp. That's what you're going to say, isn't it?
100%. I just don't want to see
Anyone
any
else.
success. I support the Tigers. I also support whoever's playing the Bulldogs. So,
who wins it, Gary?
It's opened up a little bit over the past couple of weeks. I think the injury to Hughes really makes it difficult for Melbourne. It'll be interesting to see. Canberra is probably the informed team at the moment, but whether they have another year, it's going to be an interesting month for football to watch.
What do you get up to in summer, Coach? Are you a cricket fan or NFL, or you got no other interests outside of rugby league?
Mate, I watch any sport, anywhere, anytime. We're about to go into night one of Sunday football in the US, so I'll be up early in the morning. Loving the cricket, but with my obviously coaching, we'll be back November the 1st. I think it's November the 6th, actually, we're back. So, not long to go, and we'll start pre-season up here.
All right. Well, thank you to our viewers once again. Claws Out Podcast on X, on Instagram, on YouTube. Thank you to Matchday Manny, and we'll see all you guys soon. Thanks, boys.